why is it a minig that Rosh Hashanah at night we take an apple and we dip it into honey? What's the union of an apple? Now, the Shulchan says, Tefוח mosuk b'dvash. Tefוח mosuk means a sweet apple. So that means to exclude a Granny Smith. A Granny Smith is not a sweet apple. But a pear is also a sweet fruit. So why don't we take a pear? So I said, the apple has a unique quality to it. If you take the apple, usually people when they open an apple, they cut it this way. But if you take the apple and you cut it this way, like what is called by the circumference. So we'll cut the apple. Okay. And you have two halves of the apple now in front of you. So you want to look at the apple. If you look at the apple, you'll notice two things. First of all, there are 5 grooves in the apple for the pits. Okay? Now, there are apples that have more than 5 pits in them, but never does an apple have more than 5 grooves. Okay. Now, if you notice on the apple, there are dots in the apple. There are dots around the apple. If you count these dots around the apple, you'll see that there's 10 dots. Count them. Take the knife and count them.
This is what they can do by Rosh Hashanah by night. Everyone counts.
That's why you can't see it so clearly.
If you want to give him his, every apple, regardless if it's a Macintosh or a Cortland or I don't know, all the different names of apples, but any apple that you have has 5 grooves and 10 dots. Huh?
The Granny Smith is not also
The Granny Smith has a problem, it's not a sweet apple. But every apple, there's no apple in the world. Take all different apples. Every apple has 10 dots in it. Count around. You see the dots here? You see dots?
Yeah.
You'll see there's 10 dots.
And this?
Not in there. Over here you see. Over here you see there's a dot. Over here you see there's a dot. Count the dots and you'll see there's 10 dots.
So what does that mean?
So what does that mean? There's a pasuk that we say in davening every day. At the end of Uvol Tzion, there's a pasuk ki b'yor Hashem surei lama. What does it mean? So pasuk the taich is that the strength of the world is in the hands of Hashem. But the Gemara Darshan is different. The Gemara Darshans B'yor or B'kah, they darshan that through the Yud and the Hey, the Eibishter created the worlds. Because the Gemara says, the Hey nivra olam hazeh, and the Yud nivra olam habo. When was the Brias Olam? The Brias Olam is Rosh Hashanah, right? So Zeh Yom Tchilas Masecha. So that's why the apple represents Brias Olam. The Yud and the Hey represent the Olam Hazeh and the Olam Habo. So that's why we take an apple home. And the interesting thing is, we say in davening, I don't know if Rabbi Nussel says it, but by Kiddush, we say, Askina Sudosa de Nusa, Shlemus Achedes of the Malka Adishal, Askina Sudosa the Malka, Doi Sudosa the Chakal Tefach and Kadishan. What does it mean? This is the Suda of the holy apples. What does it mean of the holy apples?
What does it say in English?
Oh, so had a Maisa, list of Maisa. So when Rabbi Mangel translated, he didn't know how to teach it. He didn't know how to teach it. So he writes over here as prepare the meal of perfect faith, which is the delight of the king, the holy king. Prepare the meal of the king. This is the meal of the holy Chakal Tapuchim. And Zeir Ampin, yeah? But there's a footnote. It's hard for me to read very small print. read this footnote over here if you don't mind. For me, it's a little bit difficult.
I can't see it, but your word. Oh.
Give someone else to read
When
it.
it's a festival occurs on Shabbos.
No.
Oh, well, no.
No. Over there. Give it to me.
Where are we reading?
Give it to me.
Kabbalistic terms for various manifestations of the Shekhinah. That?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chakat HaPucha is a manifestation of the Shekhinah.
Various manifestations.
Now, if you don't mind, there's
So
a
as you
chitas
see
ring
the
over here
apple,
someplace.
there's a thing of the Shekhinah.
There's a chitas ring here. Give me
The
an
apple is a
apple.
mashal on the Shekhinah.
Huh? The apple has to do with the Shekhinah. And this is the work of the Shekhinah, that the Shekhinah made Olam Haza and Olam Haba, and it's all represented in the apple.
Yeah,
I heard it from Rabbi. I heard it from Rabbi this. Yeah.
Said it last day. Yeah. Well, good students, Rabbi. You see,
Yeah.
we all remember what it.
Any chitas? There was a chitas here before. Okay. Give me a chitas, if I remember correctly. What parsha is it? When Yankov came in to take the brachas? It's in told us, right? Okay, let's look over here.
Oh, I told us because yes, it was there.
Huh? He told us. Asayim Adamim. So then Yaakov comes into to Yitzchak,
Yeah.
and he has his doubts. He has his doubts about him. It's something how you die with the Esav, Akol Yankev, how you die with the Esav. He has his doubts. So he says to him, just a minute. One minute. One find the pasuk. The pasuk. Yaakov Uyim Shani Avi. So he says, then
No,
it says,
next page.
then it says, Vayim Yitzchak Abinai, no, before that. Vayove Elove, no. Vatitan Etamatamim,
Just before the sheet is.
Vayel, he says to him, Vayim Elov Yitzchak Avi Geshono Ushkoli B'nei, right?
Right.
Vayigash Vayishagloi, Vayorach Israel Begodov, Vayivachet him gebenched. What did he smell? So look, there's a Rashi over here. This print is not from me, but look, what does Rashi say on the Reach B'nei?
Yorach, weil ein Reach ra Jesu Mishet Vizim,
Yeah.
Malam Shnach Zim Reach Ganin. Reach Ba'asad Shberach Hashem, Shnosim Bei Reach Teiv, V'zeh Stei Tapuchim.
Oh. What do you smell? You smelled
In
apples.
Tainis Chavtas on Bez.
Right? You smelled apples. That's what he smelled.
Tapuf.
That's what he smelled.
Don't smell.
That's what he smelled.
Oh, you can smell apples.
Huh? He smelled the Shechina.
Yeah.
But Rashi calls it Shidei Tapuchim. Okay. So it's not so posh. The apple is not so posh as you think it is. You know, the kids used to have a song, "An apple a day keeps the doctor away," right?
Yeah.
Well, it's not so posh. Okay. Does anyone want to count it?
Anyone want to eat it?
Now, when it's open a little bit, it gets darker.
Yeah, get that.
It stands out.
I did it.
I counted it last year.
Huh?
I brought it in my.
I take a video of the parents out, huh? What do you do? Oh, you did it also?
Okay, you can count it
Yeah.
in here.
Shana night.
In here,
So those are
on
the
the
kids do
outside,
it.
on the
That's
outside
what
of the
the kids.
apple, with my fingers going around now, you'll see the dots along the outside of the apple,
Exactly.
and there are 10 dots in the apple.
The first time I read that.
And that stands for Yud K, stands for Shechina.
And now I think we need you to take a video. Better to see.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
No, yeah, then I tell the boys, Dad, not take it, and bedroom.
Then last year I just added one kleinigkeit. I sort of substance cipher. One kind. This is more like when I once made a presentation, so I call this a Kabbalistic explanation. You know, people want to hear Kabbalah. You know, it's Kabbalistic. I say in Pashtus, apple in Hebrew is tapuach. And if you take the word tapuach and you reverse the letters, machtas pesach. So Mela, so on Rosh Hashanah we ask pesach hashadecha. So Mela, that's how we take the apple, because the apple represents the union of pesach hashadecha.
Okay,
That's why there's people that have a minhag that for every Rosh Hashanah they buy a new knife. Why they buy a new knife? A new knife is called chatach, the cut.
Yeah.
And chatach is the sefer tevis of pesach hashadecha. The pesach hashadecha, the sefer tevis is petach. And b'meila, so they say that, and they say that the malach that's mun on panosa is chatach name. So b'meila, so that's already a pasha that not a bikabola, but a bikabola is this first thing that I said with the parts from the siddur, the chakat puchim, and by Yaakov, Sheikh Vayad Eif Bani. Rashi says that what is Sodet Tapuchim. Okay. See, I told you there's something different today. Okay. What's the minute? Were you up there? I forgot already.
Yesterday you discussed this.
We're in the middle. I didn't want to go in. What? Chatach. Chayster? But that's 4 words for it.
Now the word achesech.
Huh?
The word achesech comes from chatach.
Chayster Chayim.
So the word achesech.
What?
The word achesech, the Swedish of achesech, is chatach.
It's Chayster Chayim or Chol Chayim.
No, just the word achesech.
He said just the word hachoisech comes from the word chatach.
Okay.
Maybe for cuts.
All right. So that was what the teachers used to call visual aid. Visual aid. In the schools we used to have a projector. I forgot what they called it even, but it was a projector.
We had a slide projector.
Slide
Not a
projector.
slide projector. Yeah, it was a film strip. They
Now
call
this
it.
is better, this is hands-on. Hands-on is a good vessel. It's prophetic, what's it called? Prophetic. You feel that? Or
Okay.
We were doing Tov Reish Vav yesterday.
We are actually in Tov Reish Vav. Okay. Interesting. If you look, we'll start in Tess. Okay? Tess in Tov Reish Vav. In Tess, he says over here a very interesting thing. Takonas kadmoinim. There's an old takona. V'chedem, it's a very serious matter. Shalahaitzi Shem Ra al HaMesim. Right? But what about living people? Living people is even worse. Is a Yisa Daraisa. Okay. Look at Yudalef now. This is what I want to do right now. Noegin Litvol, the Erev Yom Kippur. There's a minute to go to Toivel Erev Yom Kippur. V'yeshem, some say, Shatam Tvilu Zu, Mishum Keri, today, Shayiyu Nikiyim Utahayim B'Yom Kippur. If this is the reason, Ein Inyan Kal Loime Viduyim B'Mikvah. There's some that say certain vidu in the mikvah. V'chein etzorach litva al pam achas, just one dip. Umi shetovo b'erev Rosh Hashanah v'roa keri achar kach afa pigin etzorach litva b'erev Yom Kippur because the Shem roa achar kach mayim chalukim or yachurim she'haroi oisim tomim mishum b'keri tefillah zu shehi mishum keri Kishaira afilu b'memso she'uvim. Now, memso she'uvim, you could be yotze with a shower. A shower, you could be, it's called tisha kabim. Lishvach of tes kabim, and they paskin, many paskin, that a shower is considered tes kabim. But a shower, lishvach of beze gimel kegum, you could, umishum mitzvah b'tfilu yochol lishvach of tes kabim mayim, v'ashoy lishvach over mi beis and mi gimel kelim. You can take it doesn't have to be all the one keli with all the water and one shricha, but it could be one after the other. But the main thing is u'bavad sheyas rasheni atra pasuk arishan. Before the first one finishes, the second one should start. V'chein hagimel atra pasuk habeis. Avon midal kelim, to use 3 kelim, it's not considered done as tisha kabim. Ein mitztafen v'tes kabim. Vafilu im mamadik nekli echad yaisa v'hadik b'li hafsaka klal. No, he's saying that vafilu im mamadik nekli echad. Even if he's pouring only one keli, so Yizoy Lahodik V'loy have soccer kal. So you should be careful that it shouldn't be any interruption. Don't stop in the middle. I'll tell you an interesting thing. Today in America, some of the places where they make a funeral, what they call a funeral home, they call it a mortuary. So some built mikvahs. The mikveh is not a hidur in any. It's not a hidur in any way at all. Because Voraya, by the Rebbe, there was tisha kabim. It was done in the Rebbe's room, and there was no mikveh. The reason for the mikveh today is because it became easier to do a tara. Because like this, in order to do tisha kabim, maybe you need 5-6 people to do it, and if you have a mikveh, you could just have a hoist. And they lower the body into the mikveh, then they take it out and throw it and finish. So there was a chapel in Borough Park. We use a place called Shomer Das. There was another place called Shomer Chaimis, where today they're in business. They moved over not to the storefront, but they had a very interesting system. They had, number one, a table that would tilt, that would tilt. In the other place when they do Tisha Kabim, the nift is laying on a table, and they walk along the table with the pails. So you have 3 pails, and they're going while one is going, the other one starts. That's how the Tisha Kabim. By them, they would able to stand up the nifta, and up on top they had like a. If you remember, I don't know if anyone remembers such thing, but a Morgenzeiten in the tenement houses, when you had to flush the toilet, how did you flush the toilet? You pulled the chain, right, and it came down water from on top. Right. So they had like a barrel up on top, and you pull the chain, and the barrel turns over, and Tisha Kabim pouring. So that's what he's saying over here now. That if one person is doing the whole Tisha Kabim, you may ask, how could it be? I'm telling you how it could be. He has to be careful to do it continuously and not stop in between. That's what he says over here. says, "Vafil Mamarek Mikeli Echad Yizor Lahorik V'Lei Yafsakakol V'Im Nichlas Chetzia V'Teich HaMikvah V'Chetzia Shop V'Tes Kabin is also a Yotza. Because the Isha Shashimsha Terkim Yom V'Tfila Zu Tzvichu L'Chabet Beisa B'Chamin Koydin שתתמוק כדי להפלט כל השחזרת של מקיידה שלא תפלט אחר התפילה ותתמיה בימי כיפורים. It's a whole thing of פילת השחזרת, I'm not going to go into all these things now. And the Alter Rebbe goes with the Shita that women should also go to the mikvah on Erev Yom Kippur. That's why he's saying this din over here. And the Alter Rebbe said the Suas also, girls also. And our minhag is not girls, and but even though the Rebbe Shulchan says it.
Well, we're not. It's not only 100% that all the women should go.
I didn't say that.
Okay, but
the Rebbe, I thought the Rebbe brings in the Shulchan Aruch, and the Chiddush al the Rebbe he writes a full of the Suas also, and that part the Welt did not accept the Mount Ephraim. They all talk against it. One reason that they talk against it because they don't want girls getting used to it. The idea is that there'll be no contact between boys and girls, so they should go to the mikvah. She's tahar, you know. So they.
But you just said there is.
That's why they don't want the shulas to go. Well, some service manazem with people on makel and everything, you know, with touching and everything. So it may be a mila.
Over here,
I once heard a story that there was some program in Stern College met with Yeshiva University, and there were boys and girls, you know, mingling. So someone over to Yeshiva says, "How you talking?" So Shabbat said to him, "So alle Yidden sein in Chayve Veitzien weiß ich nicht, aber in Chayve Benoistien ist kein Scheibe nicht."
Over here it says about calling somebody a mamza.
Yeah. So
Rabbi Bogomilsky, one time he was in the country, you know, in the summer he used to go to Gani Sol.
The Gemara says like our barn, the Gemara in Kedushin, right now, Chavchas. Yeah, Karu Achavayra Mamza, looking at the Daf Chavchas, and you told me you're learning it.
So he was in.
Kaira Eved is one thing, Kaira Mamza is another thing.
So he was in the parking lot, and there was a man that he's in Shem Hafez, I'm not going to say his name. He called his kid. He said, "Mamzadal, get in the car."
Yeah.
So Rabbi Bogomilsky went over to him and said to him, "Never do that again."
Yeah.
He said, "Because I once went to a wedding, and they were standing waiting for the chuppah, waiting for the chuppah. He says, that somebody said that he remembered that his father used to call the kid a mamza, and they didn't want to make this shit up. They almost wanted to call him. They had to bring Adim to this and that." So I said, "Don't be so smart. Don't call your kid a mamza like that. Because if a father calls his son a mamza, you could imagine that it's true." And he said, "Don't do that." Who knows better? Right? Rabbi Bogomilsky said, "Don't do that don't ever do that again."
There was one son who had to make a name for his daughter. She couldn't decide what